All right, I am here and we are pretty much ready to go. We're going to do some random map scripts today, and let me just message the guy and make sure that he's coming, which he should be. I am online and ready to go whenever you are. All right, so we're going to do random map scripts today. We've got two slots on the docket for today. For now until about an hour from now, we're going to work with Sizu on an idea that he had called isolated lakes. And then for the next hour after that, we're going to work with Corazondewion. I think he's from Chile. And he's got a concept for some enemy archipelago map that I think we can help him with. Alright, so let's launch the game. In the description of this video, I have uploaded a link to my lair, the Viridarks community, and then I uploaded a link, it'll last for 7 days, for the random map scripting community. So that is where a lot of these resources are maintained. So they are both Discord servers, and there's a very good group of people, especially in the random map scripting community, who you can ask questions of, and they'll do their best to help you. It's a really nice place. And if you want to learn how to script a map in Age of Empires 2, that is the place to go. So I just got back from a wedding, so I'm still all dressed up and stuff. For my cousin, Hunter, and his now wife, Julie. So I did not have time to change. So you guys are going to have to put up with me all dressed up. Alright. So let us disable cubes. And relaunch. Okay. Let me turn on the overhead light too. Alright. I've been trying to play with Huns forever for quite some time, but it just hasn't worked out. Okay. Get some more light in the room. Alright. So we go back to single player here, and we'll go to editors, and I've got this saved scenario here for the Nova tournament. We're going to hit the wrong button. Hit the create scenario button. So that's what you generally do with the scenario editor when you want to test a map scripts generation. Yeah, so we're going to load, and we're going to load this one here. And this was an idea that Sizu had. So we got some pretty crazy lands here. I don't know what his latest version of it is. The scenario editor you have a lot more control. Like there are a lot more tiles, and you can individually put down where all the different units go. But it's the same every time. So you come up here to the different menus and you select something, and you put the camel scout down, or you put the forage bushes down. So the fish down. So it's pretty direct. It's pretty tedious, but you do have a lot more control over cliffs. Cliffs are something that the scenario editor can't really work with. Or it's something that the random map scripting engine can't deal with. Okay. Huh, it's strange. The bot isn't telling people that I'm streaming yet. Oh well. Alright, so the random map scripting server looks like this. So, assuming that you can adhere to the rules and everything like that, you come up here to RMS resources, and you can see that they give a constants list, a scripting guide, and other references. And members of the server maintain these documents. Okay. So they maintain the documents, and so first thing that you got to do is you got to come over here and you got to have your own little subfolder, if you will. And I guess it automatically puts these files down here, but I have them also saved in Ensemble Studios. So every time you download the game, I guess it automatically puts these Ensemble Studios scripts here. But anything that is within this folder right here, random map scripts, here's common. So here's the directory. This PC, local disk, program files, Steam apps, AOE2, resources, common, and then underneath this random map scripts, hey, Sizu is here, excellent. Underneath this, anything that is in this folder right here as a .rms file, the game will be able to detect the presence of and give you the option to run. So for example, in my workshop here, let's say under publications, I've got Karga, and I have Karga v4 here, and I also have archive versions of Karga too. But I've got Karga v4 here as an example, and I could go to generate a random map, and I could find Karga v4 on this list. And it's actually, I could find all of them because it goes in and it finds all the things that are all in all the different subfolders. So for those of you that are following along, the first thing that you're going to need to do if you want to write a random map script is you're going to have to go through this directory here. Let me see if I can actually copy this. Oops, let's go up a couple ones. Random map scripts. All right, here we go. And I have a little subfolder called My Workshop to help me distinguish from the Ensemble Studios scripts. But let me copy that link and let me paste that in chat here so that you guys can have that location and you can put your script in there and you can generate it right alongside me. Okay, here we go. Okay, so there's that. So let me come over here to My Workshop and let us create a subfolder. Actually, we'll copy education here because that's basically what we're doing. And we are going to create, so My Workshop, we'll come over here to education, You want the latest version? Nah, it's all right. Because the latest version is very similar. It just has a bigger lake in the middle with some gold. So we're going to come over here and we're going to create a new text document right here, just like that. If you wanted to make something from scratch, that's how you would do it. So we've got a new text document here, and let's rename that text document to whatever Sizu wants to name this. And buildable water. Oh, you mean like the mangrove shallows? Yeah, we could do that. So we're going to rename this Isolated Lakes and then we have to change the extension from .txt to .rms right there. And it gives us a warning. Are you sure? If you change a file name or extension, it might become unusable. We're going to say yes. Okay, so now we note that the icon over here has changed a little bit. Now we could take this and we could edit it. Where is it? We could open with Notepad. And we could literally bring it up as a Notepad document just like this. So that is definitely a possibility, and that's actually what we're going to stay with. But what I want you guys to know is that we could also take the, a similar .rms file, and the way that I have this set up is I have downloaded an editor specifically for this kind of thing, and it's actually Visual Studio Code. So this is the interface for Visual Studio Code. You can see that there's some convenient highlighting and such. Okay, so it can make the player a little bit more efficient, and the code is actually not terribly long. So anyway, here we go. This is it in Visual Studio Code. You can download these plugins online. You could go and you could just search for like Visual Studio Code. Let me show you. And you can go to their website and they literally have, a download link right here. So you can absolutely go and get that plugin. You could also try, just to show you, Notepad++. Which again is another program that you could download. It's really about your personal preference as the scripter. Whatever's easiest for you to work with. For me, I'm going to start with just Notepad. Notepad is super user unfriendly, I know, but it's basic, and I don't want to assume that you have these editor programs downloaded, because in all likelihood this may be the first time that you're learning about it if we're instructing you how to script in general today. So let's close that. So we've got isolatedlakes.rms here, and we've got its text file open.rms, okay, and we've got a blank sheet and we're ready to go. What do we need to know? What else do we need to have? Well, I've got this definitive random map scripting guide saved. So I've downloaded this ahead of time. Let's bring this document up. This document is maintained by Zetnus, who is a legend. He is a figure in the scripting community. And we'll open these other ODS documents as well. It's got the document in several different forms. And we will recover these documents. But one of them is a document that I made, and the other is a document that somebody else, probably Zetnus, made, but maybe not. So we'll hit finish here. Okay. Oops. Okay. So here it is. Here's the Age of Empires 2 Definitive Random Map Scripting Guide. And it is 111 pages. And it breaks down all the things that you need to know about how to make a random map script. Now, we're not going to go through and read this document word for word because that would be boring. And that's not why we're here. And you may not necessarily need to know exactly everything that is in this, but if you read this and you learn from it, you'll be very, very smart about random map scripting. And you'll know everything that Zetness has learned from tearing it apart and experimenting over the years. So you can even click up here, and this actually will give you a more recurring link. So actually I could go and find, yeah, this is probably a permanent link to the scripting Discord, so I'll copy this into the description here. But it goes through all the different versions of the game, etc., etc., etc. So here's what you need to know right now, though. And that is that we need a basic number of banners. Okay, so we need player setup. We need player setup. We need land generation. We need elevation generation. We need terrain generation. We need object generation. Actually, yeah. And we need connection generation. And I think that connection generation actually technically comes before object generation. Alright, now let me just check to make sure that I got the names of all these banners correct. Objects generation. Oh, and there's cliffs too. Well, we're not going to do anything with cliffs, sorry. So elevation, cliffs, terrain, connection, objects. So let's add cliff generation in here. And generation, elevation. So after elevation is cliff. Objects generation. Okay. So this order right here, this is important. Why? Because the random map scripting engine is going through and it is searching for each of these banners. And yes, they have to be inside of these little caret shapes here. These greater than or equal to signs. Your script must contain banners that have these. Well, I guess it doesn't have to, right? But if you don't have the section that's inside of that banner, you can't produce those effects. So what do each of these things do? So in this order, the random map scripting engine will look for a section called player setup. And everything that is underneath these two less than or greater than signs, but before another section, it will search for ways to set up the players, configure starting resources, just administrative rule change kind of things to the map. It looks for and it does in that section. So I believe that Zetness in his guide has a syntax skeleton that shows you everything that's going on in the player setup. So things like the type of the player placement, the type of resources, the type of map that the AI needs to look at this as. You can do guard states, terrain states, setting Gaia civilizations, and all the effect amounts and effect percents. So things that could change the rules of the game. So that's all administrative stuff that doesn't really affect maybe necessarily so much how the map looks, but how it plays, I guess I'll say. So land generation. So the next section is land generation. Now lands are distinct sections of terrain that can be placed at specific elevations, avoiding specific borders or within certain boundaries. There's a base size for a land, a certain number of square tiles, and you can specify the amount beyond that which it grows. You can also tell lands to avoid other lands. So generally, most maps will have maybe 10 lands at most in them. Maps that I make have probably tens of thousands of lands ultimately. It's just a little bit of a different style here. And my outlook on this is that instead of having a single land and putting lands places and letting them grow a certain amount and letting the scripting engine figure that out, what I do is I pre-compute the relationships that need to be had between thousands of tiny lands and then arrange them to make the patterns and shapes that I want. So it requires more memory, and I have to have my own separate computer program to do it. But you can do more. You can do more with it. So the next thing is to say about this is that this is also where player lands are declared. If you do not have lands that are assigned to players, then those players cannot have any objects, any starting objects, which essentially means that if the game starts, the player forfeits. So this is where you declare where on the map the players essentially start. And there is a command there to create player lands, which you can do. Okay, you can do that. You can create lands randomly, or you can create lands with a more direct placement, stating exactly what they are. But maybe there's like you know, it's more predictable that way if you say exactly where the players are. So it reduces the importance of scouting, which is generally, I think most people would agree, is not the best thing. So you try to place players' locations randomly, unless there's some reason why you can't, based on the setup of the map. All right, elevation generation. So for whatever reason, hills bias the bottom of the map, but in general here, you basically say to the random map scripting engine, go and find terrain that is grass, terrain that is dirt, whatever, and put hills on it. It's that simple. There are not that many subcommands for elevation generation. It's just go find this terrain type and create hills that are this tall with this many clumps with this many tiles. That's all it is. Cliff generation. So cliffs avoid the origins of lands, and they avoid player lands as well. And I think they might avoid hills as well. The cliff generation, I don't have a lot to say about that. It is extremely primitive. You basically, nobody uses cliffs in random map scripting. You might have the occasional map that has a cliff or two in it, but cliffs just get in the way. It's very often that they won't even spawn at all. And if you've got thousands of lands on your map, then you will not ever see a cliff because cliffs will be avoiding them. Okay, terrain generation. So terrain generation goes back to the land generation, the elevation generation. This is where you can change one type of terrain into another type of terrain. So if you've got dirt in a certain location, you could change some of it to grass. You could do it completely randomly. You could do it in kind of like a layering approach where you say, I've got a big patch of dirt, but let's put a patch of grass in the middle that is 4 tiles to the outside of that patch of dirt. You could do that too. You can control the way that you change different terrains around depending on elevation. So you could say, for example, let's say I've got this dirt hill. You could say, well, okay, maybe it's a mountain. Maybe the top of the mountain is colder than the bottom. So you could put more snow on the top of the mountain, and then as you go down in elevation on the mountain, you could layer that snow and mix it with the dirt until eventually when you got to the bottom it was all just dirt and no snow. So terrain generation is really where you can start to make maps look very, very beautiful. And you can spend a lot of time beautifying maps just out of using that section. It is also where the majority of forests are placed, or traditionally where forests are placed in random map scripting, because forests are considered a terrain type, which means that if a villager chops down a tree, they cannot build on the location that the tree is chopped until all of the wood stored in that tree has been removed. So that is a feature of a forest or a tree that is generated as part of a terrain, which is what most forests are. So connection generation replaces certain terrain in certain locations that are between certain lands or certain players. So imagine the shallows on Highland, or imagine the passageways between player bases on Black Forest. Those are created with connection generation. So in this section, the scripting engine is commanded to find either two player lands that are separated by water, as would be in Highland, and to say, okay, randomly choose some places that are 4 tiles wide and replace the water that would be there that you can't walk across with shallows that you can walk across. So the way that you got to look at it is connection generation goes in and it sort of cleans up for the imperfections in the previous sections. Connection generation will not work if you have a large number of lands. It'll crash because you figure you've got 1,000 lands. You've got 1,000 permutations of different lands all trying to connect to each other. The game can't handle it. It crashes. So that's something to bear in mind. It's okay if you've probably got 10 or fewer lands, but when you start having more than 100 lands, or even less than that, like maybe 20 or to 50 lands, this section will blow your script up. Okay, and then finally, object generation. So this is where players' starting units are created. This is where resources are created: gold, stone, boar, deer, sheep. Straggler trees that you could chop down and then build on top of so they're not a nuisance. All of that is created with object generation. So the very first thing that we are going to do here is we've got isolated lakes here as our script. Let's close this. And we have a good view of what this looks like. It looks like we have some isolated lakes. So let us go and add some syntax to this script file to make it work. So let's come down here and let's select isolated lakes. Where is it? Islands. Oh, we don't have it. So let's close out and relaunch the scripter here, the scenario editor, I should say, and we should be able to find it. So random map, small, and let's see, isolated lakes. Here we go. Bam. We generate it, and all that we have are some cliffs. That's it. That's all we have are cliffs. So these cliffs are kind of randomly generated here, but otherwise it's a blank open map. So what do we have to do to make isolated lakes work? Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to create lands for the players. If we don't create lands for the players, we will not get players to spawn, and we want players to spawn. So let's come over here. So let's come over here, and the first thing that we're going to do is under land generation, we're going to go base terrain. Let's go water for now. So we could change the base terrain to water if we want. Seems like there's a lot of water on the map. Hopefully Sizu is paying attention. So now we're going to change that. We're going to save it, and then when we generate, bam, we got water. Now cliffs don't like water. They don't spawn on water. So that's something that we're going to have to keep track of and be careful of. So now, how did I know to do that? Well, come down here to land generation, and as you can see, base terrain type is an argument here. Yep, that's good. All right, just stop me if you have any questions, because I might go fast. So we specified the base terrain type, and this is kind of how Highland is made. So now we're going to create player lands, and actually let's just take this and let's just copy this right here. I don't know if we can do links. No, it looks like we can't, but that's fine. So I can explain what all of these different things are. So terrain type will be the type of terrain. Land percent or number of tiles, these two are mutually exclusive. I like land percent because it scales automatically with the map size. Base size, we got borders here. We don't need to mess with any of these borders, I don't think. So we'll get rid of that. Border fuzziness, we'll get rid of that because we don't have any borders. Clumping factor, base elevation, and we could also give them zones. So we're gonna give them zone 1, I guess, for now. And other zone avoidance distance, we could give them, I don't know, like 10 for now. All right, so let's start filling in what we want here. Circle radius is, let's give it 42. Nomad-based map, he says. All right, hang on. We could do nomad as well. Okay, circle radius is 42, and then we need a second argument. So the good news about this is because these are all linked, if we're curious about what these things mean, we can hit Control here and then click on that, and it'll give us all the information we need about that argument. So the first number is what we actually want it to be at, and the second one is a plus or minus variance. Makes it a little bit more unpredictable. So we'll do like plus or minus 4% for now, and we'll hit save. We'll select a clumping factor of 30, a base elevation of 0. We'll let it be zone 1 for now, and we'll say that we want land percent of 10, and terrain type is going to be grass. Okay, so grass is a predefined terrain type, the same with water. You can find these terrain types. They are in an AOE2 terrains spreadsheet, which you can download from the server. And it looks like this. I want the map to be kind of similar. Yeah, we're going to work on it. We're just getting started here. Okay, so you can see that there is a predefined constant for a lot of these, but some terrains, like farms at different percents, do not have a predefined constant, so we'll have to define it ourselves, which is fine. We can do that. But you can see that there are many different terrains to choose from. Okay, so let us just check one more thing. Let's find zone number. Setting numeric zone. Lands sharing the same zone can grow to touch each other. If two lands have different zones and other zone avoidance distance is specified, land growth will avoid touching the other zone. By default, lands from Create Player lands are each in their unique zone, while lands with Create Land all share the same zone. Do not specify any zone if you want players to be on their own island, which is what we want. So we will not specify this zone here. So we'll get rid of it. But we will keep other zone avoidance distance. Okay, so we got this. Now I want you to also note something. We could take this and we could put this down here, and it wouldn't really matter. It doesn't matter what order these are in. The random map scripting engine will always look for player setup first, and then it'll skip these other ones until it finds land generation. And then once it finds land generation, then it'll look in elevation generation. So it doesn't matter what order we put them in. It will always do them in this predefined order that I showed you. Okay, Sizu is starting to learn. That's good. That's why we're here. So let's see what effect that had. As you can see, we've got 2-player lands, and they take up about 10% of the map here. We've got a tiny map size. All right, let's put this to the test and see how good of player lands these really are. Now, we haven't specified a base size at all either. So they could have some pretty funny shapes, as you can see. We'll generate again, and you can see that they're just kind of all over the place. But that they are ultimately in a sort of circular arrangement around the center. So let's put this back where it was, because it doesn't matter where it was, but it'll be easier for us to organize this way. Now, we have base size n here. Well, n isn't defined, and it doesn't know what n is. So if we gave base size of 10, for example, then it would start with a 10 by 10 square, and then it would grow the land around it. So let's generate now. So as you can see, we've got a little bit bigger lands here, and they're a little bit rounder because it's starting with a base size of 10, and then it's adding on to it with that land growth that we specified. So for instance, if we came into object generation and we said create object town center, and we did find closest, and we did set place for every player, then we would be creating a town center at the origin of each of these player lands. So we don't generally create objects first, but I just want you guys to see where these player towns are. So now we'll generate the map. And as you can see, the player town is sort of more close to the center of each of these lands. You've got your 10 by 10 tile, your 10 by 10 tile square here, and then you've got a little bit of organic land growth beyond that. So what happens if we tell these player lands to constitute 100% of the map instead of 10? Let's save it and see what happens. So if we tell the player lands to constitute 100% of the map, then the lands will grow to try and take up 100% of the land of the map, but they can't because we've got another command in here that says other zone avoidance distance of 10. So this other zone avoidance distance of 10 is making it so that both of these lands have to avoid each other by 10 tiles. Then we could do something with connections, actually. Let's come down here, where we say accumulate all connections. And let's just do something really basic here. I'm going to copy and paste out of our other, our other document here when I was experimenting with it with Highland. Okay, so let's come down to connections. Let's copy and paste that. A lot of this is copying and pasting pre-existing code, that you have that works. All right. So, accumulate connections, connect all players' lands, replace terrain water with DLC wet beach, and that's all that we need to do. Terrain size, water, and let's make it 3 wide there. Okay, so now that we've added that, we essentially have ourselves a Highland map. We could have just as easily put shallow here if we wanted. And we could even probably change the cost of it so that we have multiple crossings. But in effect, we've made a very primitive version of Highland right here. Now what happens if we add more players? More players on a large map size. Well then, as you can see, we've got 8 players all arranged around the center, each with their own little, river-like thing. And each with these wet beach shallows. I actually don't really like this DLC wet beach. I think it looks ugly. Let's put shallow. Hey, Cesar Cifuentes is here. Welcome, welcome. Just working with Czu here on one of his map concepts. Teaching him the basics of random map scripting. Okay, so as you can see, we've got all these bridges now to connect the players. I don't think the cliffs are too fair, but I mean, they exist, so that's fine. They could always be played with. So let us do one more thing, actually. Let's see if we can put because Sizu sent me the latest one, the latest and greatest one. And let's download that real quick. Okay, download this. Isolated Lakes, it's called. So I've got the file downloaded. Now let's go to these editors here, and we're going to open the scenario folder. And let me transfer this in here. Okay. And then let's back out of this, and let's just take a look at that and see if there's any features that we can help Sizu out with. So let's load scenario, and we've got isolated lakes here. So this is Sizu's concept. So it looks like Sizu wants to have, okay, so he wants to have an island of gold in the center. Yep, I know. I know you're Corazon Duwian. Yes. And he's got these mangrove shallows here that you can build on. And then where do the players start? Oh, the players start in transport ships. Okay. All right. That's interesting. Yeah, I think it looks good. I'm just thinking here. So, let us change the base terrain from water to grass. And then we'll create player lands using water instead. And let's see, tiny with 2 players. Let's see how it looks. Isolated lakes, random map script. There we go. It's not going to look anywhere near as good as this. Ah! What do we have? Ah, okay. So, we've got kind of the reverse, right? We're replacing the water with shallow here. So we can tell that the player lands are here and here. Now, we have no town center. Why not? We don't have a town center because you can't put town centers on shallows, right? So let's change that first of all. Let's go transport ship. Let us get rid of this other zone avoidance distance for now. Delete that. And let us reduce the land percentage here, maybe to 10%. And let's see how that looks now. Okay, still no transport ship, but we do have the lakes. We do have the, oh shoot, we want the underscore here. It doesn't like spaces. All right, let's see if that does it. Okay, so there we go. We've got transport ships, and we actually have these shallows that are still being created kind of left over from the connection generation. But the good news is that this should scale pretty well with the number of players. So if we had 8 players, for example, and we changed the map size to an appropriate size for 8 players, large, then each player would get their own lake. And we've got shallows attempting to kind of connect the lakes, if you will, or at least parts of the lakes. And we've got a couple stray cliffs scattered around here. So let's see what we can do about, yeah, I hope that you would find it cool. Let's see what we can do about putting your island in the middle now. oops. Let's see, we want this document here. So to do that, we're going to create a neutral land. I'm going to do create land right here. The terrain type is going to be water again. Land percent, maybe 10, base size 10. That all looks reasonable so far. It's not going to have a circle radius because it's not a player land. Clumping factor is going to be 30 and base elevation will be 0. But we are going to state a land position here. So, land position 50-50. And that will make sure that the land is exactly in the center of the map. Okay. So let's generate and see what happens. Bam. So we got this lake now in the center of the map. The land has grown. How do we make this a little bit more fair, though? It looks like some players are kind of closer to the lake. And the way that we do that is we scale the size of this lake. Look, this lake intersected this player base entirely. Kind of like that. Okay, so that's not fair, right? Ultimately, if we want to put an island in the middle of this lake, then we're going to have to make sure that everybody has equal access to it. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to look up some code that I wrote a while back. But I helped somebody else with it. And let's see, it's in the RMS questions. Here we go. So we can actually, all right, let me paste and then I'll explain. So here it is. We can actually scale the base size of this lake with all the different map sizes that could potentially be generated. Now, I don't do ludicrous size. I think it's ludicrous. You can go back in and add that later if you want. That would only be done if none of these other categories are met. You can actually find where all of these are spelled out in the Random Map Scripting Guide. So like if we look up map sizes, set scaling the map size. Let's just look up size. No, you should make it to be able to support 8 players. It's trivial with RMS really to do it. All right, so on page 74, it looks like you can actually use this wording in these different conditionals, and these are the actual in-game description sizes. So these are the sizes that correspond to it. You'll notice that like giant is gigantic, large is huge, and normal is large. So these don't exactly correlate 1-to-1. So be careful about that. But it'll tell you the number of tiles on each side, the total number of tiles, and the area ratio to a 100 by 100 map. So let's hit tab here, and we'll format this in, and we're creating this land. Now we're not setting the number of tiles in this case actually, but we want to change the base size of this land. And the other thing that we could do, I think, to be a little bit more fair, is we could give it other zone avoidance distance. So I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. So the first thing is we're going to come over here to base size, and we're going to cut that, and we're going to use it to replace this number of tiles, because that is not a relevant argument. We don't need that number of tiles. We already have land percent, which is mutually exclusive with number of tiles. Here we go. So regardless of the size of the map, it will have a base size of 10. All right, so we got that stored. Let's go now to a tiny map and see how it looks. So as you can see, base size of 10 takes up a much larger fraction of a tiny map than a large map because a tiny map is smaller. It has a fewer number of tiles. Do I also work as a teacher? No. So if we change this to, let's say, 40 on a tiny map size, we do need to specify 2 players. It would be too large, as you can see. It's way too big. However, 40 on a giant map size with 8 players might be more appropriate. In fact, it almost doesn't even look big enough, because it should be exactly centered here, but it's not. It grows off to this to the side here. So we're going to need to go in and adjust that. Actually, let me make sure that I even told it to do 40. No, I did not. I told it to do 10. Well, that explains it. So 40 saved here for the gigantic map size. And we can see that that is a little bit better. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Sizu. All right, so see how this is a lot better? Because 40 on a giant map size is more appropriate than 40 on a tiny map size where it's too big. We'll generate that again. So we indeed get the square, but it completely intersects the player lands, and that's not really what we're looking for. Okay, so the question becomes is what do we choose for numbers here? Well, if we go back to the giant size, we generate that again. It's starting to look like my map now. That's good, Sizu. Uh-oh. What happened over here? Oh well. We'll figure it out later. But I think this is okay. I'm actually sort of concerned though that with only 2 players, only one of the players' lands is growing. That could be a bug in this map size. But I think that this is an approximately correct size. So what we'll do now is, like, if we went back to 8 players, I bet it would be working fine. Yeah. Well, except this player 1 for whatever reason. Huh. I never noticed that before. Okay, so this is an appropriate size. Let us do one more thing. Let us come in here and let us give this a zone. And we'll make this zone 1. 1. And now we'll give this other zone avoidance distance of, let's say, 10. And again, we could scale that if we really wanted to. Okay, and that will make sure that these are always 10 away from the player lands. And I'm wondering if I think I might have to put it in both places though. So let's come down here and let's do the same thing for within this land. Okay, because it chooses the lesser of the 2. If I don't specify 1, maybe it's 0. Okay, yeah, that's much better. So we've got our isolated lake in the middle, and we've got all these different player lands around. We've got some artifact left over from when we put our connections in, but that's not a big deal. So now, for example, we could actually join these individual lakes to the big lake if we wanted. And let's do that right now. Let's fix the connections to do that. So we'll leave all that other stuff in here. we'll leave this scaling. We will come back to this because this is going to be important in a little bit. But just for my OCD, let us replace terrain grass with, we will replace grass with water. And I think we have other options here for the connections. So terrain cost, grass, we're going to do 4. And terrain size, we're going to do grass like that. So we're going to, basically it's going to go find this grass and replace it with water. That's what should happen. Make sure we got the document all saved. Okay, so it does that, and it also connects the player lands to each other as well. So let's check the connection options to see what we have here. Because I am not too familiar with connections. I can't use them because my maps have too many lands in them. So this is connect all players' lands. We have, that's what we, all player land. Players' lands, that's what we have. But I think there is also the option to connect all lands. Connect same land zones. Connect all lands. And I think we want to connect all lands. That's just what we want to do. Connect all lands. Actually, Sizu really should tell us what he wants. All lands. And that will generate these passageways. We might need to decrease that other zone avoidance distance there. But connections can definitely be quite finicky. Difficult to get them working the way that you want them to work. So what's your guidance? All lakes should be isolated, says Sizu. Well, that is the name of the map, huh? But bigger lake in the middle. So Sizu, do you want these player lakes to be connected to the bigger lake in the middle? Or do you not want them to be connected? Are they isolated from the big lake, or are they isolated from each other? Like they can't be here. So anyway, while you're answering that, we'll get rid of these connections for now. And we're going to comment these out, and we're going to save them for later. So the way that you comment something out is you put this dash and the asterisk. Okay, so just like that, and that removes the connections, isolated from each other. So kind of like this. And let us, maybe we can dial up the size of this lake a little bit more now. So we're on a giant size, maybe 50 base size. Get something that looks good. Okay, that looks a little bit better. I think 50 is the right number, honestly. And the different shape of the lakes. If possible, spawned on different spots. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, Sizu. Hold on, I'll be right back. Let me refill my water. But we do need to wrap this up soon because I got to help Corrosive Wayon as well. All right, let me refill my water real quick. But we'll complete the scaling for that. Make sure that it's right. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Some smaller and some bigger lakes. Well, I think that that could be done with terrain effects. I think for the health of the map, it might be a good idea to move these player lands in a little bit. It's my professional advice. Maybe make this 38. That'll move the player lands in to 38% instead from 42. Now, we'll still have these little things try to come off toward the sides, these little growths. So to compensate for that, we will lower the base size again. So maybe make the base size 40 now. Okay. Let me load our original scenario. Oops. Okay. Help me remember what it looks like. And he wants some other isolated lakes too. All right. So now we'll go back to random map. Where is it? Isolated lakes. There we go. So 8 players and a giant map size. So if we know that this is going to work, right, we know the relationships between the different sizes. Map sizes, here we go. For scaling and dimensions. So we were on the giant, and we know that the giant has 240 tiles on each side. And we chose a base size of 40 as being most appropriate for the giant. Oh, no, that's all right. Not too complicated at all. So we chose base size of 40, and we know that that works well for giant. It gets way more complicated than this, believe me, Sizu. Okay. So we know that 40 works for giant. And we know that the dimensions of giant are 240 by 240. But if we wanted to find a size that would work for a large size map, something that's 220 by 220, we could take that proportion, if you will. We could take 220 and divide it by 240, and then multiply that by the number that we know works for gigantic, which is 40. So if we take 220 and divide it by 40 and multiply by 40, we get 36.6 repeating. So for the huge size map, the next size down, if we did 37, we should get that to work out pretty nice. So let's do 37 there. So now let's generate the large size. And it looks like it's a little big. It's got this little offshoot coming out here. So we'll tweak that. And we'll do like 36. We'll do 36, and we'll do a slightly larger land percent too, maybe 8% of growth. There we go. I like that better. Now, let's generate the giant again with 8%, and that looks pretty reasonable. Okay. Now, let's do that calculation again, now that we've kind of rounded down here. And again, we'll start at 40. And we'll do 200 divided by 240 times 40. And that's 33. I'm glad you like it. It was your idea. And let's do it again for 200. Or we just did that, sorry. For 168 tiles now, oops, calculator. 168 divided by 240 times 40. And that'll be 28. So we'll make this one 28. And then the next size down from that is 144. So 144 divided by 240 times 40 is 24. So we'll make that 24 here. And the tiny map is 120, which is half the size. So the tiny map should be 20. Okay. So let's go down. Oh, no problem, Sizu. Normal, medium, small, and tiny. Now, this isn't really fair though, because we need to change the number of players for tiny. You might need to tweak these numbers a little bit to make it look exactly how you want it. But this is the idea. Yeah, I'm running a little bit late here to help Cesar. Okay, so that's the idea with that. We've got this transport in the middle. We could create another object if we wanted. I think the next big step is to create another land in the middle of this land that is some rock sticking out of the ground that represents the gold that people are going to be fighting over, right? So let's see how that works. My only concern is that I guess if it's completely inside of this land, I've never tried it. Let's give it a try. So we're going to create another land here. I bet if I gave it other zone avoidance distance 0, it would work just fine. So we're going to create another land here. So we're going to create land, and we're going to make that land DLC Wet Beach. It's going to be located at 50-50, and the base size is going to be significantly smaller than this. And the other zone avoidance distance is going to be 0, because we do not want it to avoid anything. And we're going to make this zone 2. Or actually, we could even make it the same zone. That might be the better call, but let's make it zone 2 for now. We could consider making it the same zone later if this doesn't work the way that we want. Again, this is a scaling of base size. We want it to be approximately maybe 1/5. So let's remove a 0 here and double it. So 20 divided by 5 is going to be 4. We'll remove one of these from 2.4 and then double it. So it's going to be about 5. Okay, so this is going to go to 2.8, which we're going to double, and that's going to be 6. This is going to go to 3.3, which we're going to double, and that's going to be 7. And then 3.6, which we're going to double, is going to be 8. And then this is going to be 8 as well. We'll bump it up a little bit, make it 9. Just so it's a different number. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. So land percent is going to be maybe 1%. And this is going to be a little island in the middle of this big lake here. Same position, but it's going to be DLC Wet Beach. Now, you guys might be asking, why are we doing this? Why don't we just use terrain generation to make the island? And here's the thing. When I was looking at Sizu's scenario, I saw that that island was elevated. But elevation generation occurs before terrain effects. So we need to put a land down now. And we need it to have a specific terrain type to target for that elevation command. So now we've got that saved. Let's run it and see what happens. Okay, there it is right there. The tiny size, small, okay, medium. And it looks like it's pretty much always square. Normal, large, and giant. All right, so let's give it a little bit more land percent then. Let's give it like maybe 4%. See what it does with that. Well, it doesn't seem to want to grow. I don't know. You might be stuck with a square island, Sizu. For now. Maybe someone can help you figure out how to grow this island. All right, what happens if I do land percent 100? Tell it to take up the whole map. Probably still won't do it. Nope, it won't do it. Probably because it's entirely engulfed in this other land up here. Big enough? Well, there is one more thing we can try. I know, but if it's got some kind of land growth associated with it, then it'll look organic and natural. And that's highly prized in the scripting community. So let's cut that, and we'll actually paste that, maybe do it before the water, and see if that helps. No, it doesn't appear at all. So it does need to occur afterward in order to show up. So we'll cut that. All right, and then we'll paste that there. So that's what it's going to be. Again, Sizu, you can tweak these numbers how you want them. But this is what I've got for now. That's a small size. It could be a little bit larger, actually. Let's double that number maybe again. You can work on it. All right, then wait. No, let's double it. We'll double it. Maybe he can find a way to work on it. 12, 14, 16, and 18. Alright. We've come a long way. We've barely done anything at all. Okay. So there's the island. And let us elevate this island now. So we've got our basic lands. We could come in and do like more ponds and stuff, but not right now. Now we need to elevate this. We can create other elevations in general too. Okay. So elevation generation. And let's go look up our skeleton syntax here. Here we go. So create elevation, base terrain, base layer, which we're not going to use, the amount of tiles, the number of clumps, the scaling, and enabling the balance. Alright, so create elevation 7. And then we need these curly brackets here. Terrain type, DLC wet beach, number of tiles. We're going to do, let's say, a lot, like 100,000. And now we're going to do number of clumps. Clumps 1. And set balanced elevation and set scaling by groups. Okay, so got all that. Let's try generating again. So in theory, this should elevate this section of terrain now. No. It elevated the grass. Why? I have a feeling DLC wet beach. Did we spell this wrong? Let's copy this. Save it. Strange. Let's go back to the skeleton syntax here. Here we go. Base terrain. So we're somehow failing to specify the base terrain. Ah, here we go. We want base terrain, not terrain type. There we go. Terrain type is the wrong word. Now when we hit generate, boom. There we go. So we have this pyramid in the middle of these isolated lakes. And if we increase the map size, we're going to have a big island now for the players to fight over. So again, we don't have to specify that this island grow with the size of the map. That, you know, that's your choice, Sizu. But I will say that there is there's one more problem. Look at this. Look at this. See this canoe here? The canoe can sail right up to the top. But, thankfully, we can put down terrains that prevent that. So, for example, we could come over here to terrain generation, and we could say create terrain DLC rock. Let's say some unbuildable terrain, doesn't matter. We're just going to kind of choose it randomly. Then we're going to put these brackets down, and we're going to say that the base terrain this time is DLC wet beach. And we want land percent 100, meaning that 100% of the land that it can convert into DLC rock from DLC wet beach, it will convert from DLC wet beach into DLC rock. Land percent 100, set scaling by groups. It's fine, whatever. The big thing though that we want is height limits. And we want to change the height limits from, let's say, 1 to 7. So now, when we hit generate, we have converted this wet beach into DLC rock, and that means that the canoe has to stay on the wet beach part. Now the canoe can still kind of slide up onto the beach a little bit, and if you wanted to get rid of that, you could come up here and you could just change this land from DLC wet beach to just DLC rock. And then you would elevate DLC rock instead. Save it. And then you wouldn't even need this terrain here. So let's put this into a comment. And there we go. But what this will do is this will make it so that normal beach terrain is here. So now the canoe cannot sail up, stuck in this location here. It would also mean that you can't build docks on this island. So I don't even know if you want to use DLC rock, but that's just kind of what I picked randomly. If you want something different, you can look at this terrain sheet and you can maybe choose a terrain that you like better. No need for a dock there? Alright, so what else can we do? Well, we've got, seems like a lot of land growth here. I don't exactly know how Sizu wants to do this, like if he wants to connect these lakes to the central lake, or what the deal is. But he could use connections to do that, most likely. We can elevate this grass if desired. We can, let me just show you, we could have more lakes around this outside lake. So for example, we could come out here to terrain generation and we could copy this and we could put it up here. We could say like create terrain water, and the base terrain is going to be grass. This is a little unfair because terrain generation is imperfect. We don't need height limits, but we will say spacing to other terrain types. And we'll put like 4 in for that. Yeah, more lakes. Oh, we want number of clumps or number of groups. I think it's number of clumps. Otherwise, it's just going to do it as one group here. There we go. Is that enough lakes for you, Sizu? Huh? Is it? Note how they avoid the cliffs. So you've got all kinds of options. You can dial back the land percent. Where is it? We've got 10. You could dial that back to like 4. So there's really all kinds of stuff that you can do with this. Now, there's no transport ship appearing anymore, so I got to figure out the reason for that. But you could also just as easily do like after this. Oh, right, because we don't close our parentheses. So you got to close your parentheses, otherwise it's gonna forget everything that happens afterward. Which for us was mostly comments, but we were creating that transport ship. There we go. Make it 8 lakes. You could even scale it with the number of players. Now, I gotta warn you, Sisu, that terrain generation is very stupid, and it'll pretty much just put lakes wherever it wants. It's not gonna care where the players are, and it's not gonna care if one player gets 2 lakes and the other player gets no lakes. So just bear that in mind. But we could just as easily replace this with, we could come up here and we could create terrain forest. And we could just as easily replace that with trees. You know, now we've got trees everywhere. And we could obviously reduce the number of clumps so that the clumps are bigger and you don't have to build annoying lumber camps all the time. Make like number of clumps 20. Okay. So you've got all kinds of options here. I don't recommend the cliffs, and it's not exactly clear to me what the purpose of this transport ship is in the center as well. So let me think about this for a minute. What do you want to do with this transport? You just want to put, starting to look like something. You just want to put, you can put villagers on an island and next to a transport ship, and then they could transport over. But at this rate, the villagers, they might as well just, they might as well just walk. You cannot put villagers inside of something in random map scripting, unfortunately. So in random map scripting, you can't make a transport ship start with villagers inside of it. You might be able to put villagers down as a second object around the transport ship. So, and then the transport ship would go and pick them up, and then it could move them. So, for example, we could create object villager, or not, we could create object, let's say constant on grid 278, and then we could create this on grid placeholder, and then we could set place for every player, find closest, and then second object we could put down a villager, and we could do min distance to players, max distance to players of like 3. So if that's what you wanted. So now when we generate, we've got a villager here that's within 3 tiles of the transport ship. So let me see if we can, and we could make more of them by having number of objects 3. And then we'll have 3 objects. Okay, just like that. However, that could get tricky because the transport ship would have to go to the villager. The villager could not move to the transport ship. So if we tested this against the AI, and we told them all to board the transport, they wouldn't. But the transport could go over to each of them and pick them up if they were close enough, and then go to the edge of the map. Now, who knows if the AI is smart enough to do that? Then we could offload the villagers. They could go and, you know, build their town center however they want. Maybe go and find some wood. There we go. Just like that. Okay. And theoretically, this is a working map. Now, who knows what the AI is up to? The AI figured it out. No, he did not. The Vills can swim. Well, they're treading water. They're treading water. They cannot swim. So what you might consider doing is you might consider making this actually a different type of water. So, like, I'll show you real quick. AI is too stupid, that's right. So, you could come up here, and where you're creating this neutral, where are we? Create player lands. You could do like DLC Water 5. So now, the player lands are on a different type of water. Oops. Let's choose the right map. Maybe. You want to be careful about rule changes. They don't like it. Okay, isolated lakes. So notice that this is a different type of water. It appears a little bit darker on the mini-map. Okay, now you could come down here to terrain generation. And you could create terrain DLC new shallow. Base terrain on DLC water 5. Land percent, maybe 1. Number of clumps. You could scale that with the number of players. We're going to do 2 clumps for now. There might be a command here. Set scaling for terrain. Set scale by size. Actually, set scale by groups is not. Okay, it is. Spacing other terrain types of 4. And then you can tell the villagers, instead of having these min and max distances, you can specify a terrain to place on. DLC water, or DLC new shallow. All right. Am I British? No. Not even close. Okay, so these villagers appear. Yeah, so these villagers are on DLC New Shallow, but they're on it as close to the player land as they can be. So we can actually get rid of that too. We can get rid of find closest for these villagers. So let's get rid of that. They are on DLC New Shallow. Number of objects, there are 3 of them. And let's try to set a clumping factor for this DLC New Shallow, shall we? Clumping factor of 30. Okay. So thankfully, these patches have not been right next to each other, but I guess in theory they could be. So we got 2 villagers here and now 1 villager over here. So I think we are going to need find closest. So we will come back and we will state find closest for these villagers. Because chances are your enemy is not going to give you, they're not going to give you a lift. Land percent 100. Number of clumps 2. And see how these villagers spawned over here now? So we could actually tell these villagers to avoid the same group. But we never got any DLC New Shallow over there, so let's increase the number of clumps to a large number. And we'll increase the spacing to other terrain types of, let's say, 8. There we go. So something a little bit more like that. And you'll have to play with that, Sizu, to get that exactly how you want it to be. So this one was even a little bit close to this, so that might need to get pushed out a little bit. I don't know. It depends on if you're planning on connecting them at some point. Anyway, I'm over time here. I gotta help Kuroso Weon mispronouncing his name. Maybe. But I want you to take this concept, not concept, I want you to take this basic script that that we've worked together in this session and, you know, add to it and make it your own and do things with it. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm always happy to help. Cheers, what's that? So, you need anything at all, you can ask me. There is a section on our server. Call me Cesar. It's easier, I think. Okay. Yeah, sure thing, Cesar. You can ask me. I'm always happy to help. You can open it up to the random map scripting community through the RMS server. So you've got a couple of good resources. But this document right here, this random map scripting guide, this will be your friend. So you can find this under the RMS resources tab right here. So it is the last thing that was uploaded. So you can use it to create some pretty powerful stuff. If you have any questions, please let me know. Cheers like happy stuff or skull. Okay. So I'll be right back. Give me a couple minutes. I'm gonna quaff my water, and then I'm gonna gulp it down. or gulp down what's left, and then I'm going to refill it. And I'll be right back. Yeah, I'm excited to see what you come up with. I think we've got some information for you that you need to get on a good start. All right, see you later, Sizu. Or you could always hang around and see. Actually, this is probably quite late for you, actually. So I'm going to help Cesar next. I'll be right back, Cesar. Let me take a quick break. But I think before I stand, I think if I understand correctly, Cesar wants to do enemy archipelago, but he wants to modify it in some way. Take your time. I'll be here. I'll be right back. It's not going to take me too long. I'm just trying to find enemy archipelago. Is it one of the... Oh, shoot. If I don't have access to that script, it's going to be tricky. All right. I'll be right back. I mean, I might as well post it in RMS questions. Actually, I'll just look for it on the Mod Center. And we'll see what people have. And then we might be able to modify it together, Cesar. Okay, so mods. Let me look for it. Browse mods. Enemy arc. The hardest part is going to be does this have enemy archipelago in it? It's coming up. It does. It has enemy archipelago, the Empire Wars Duo version. Same with this one. So we'll subscribe to this for now. We'll go back and we'll restart the game. And when I launch it, we should be able to look at enemy archipelago and see how we can modify it to meet Cesar's needs. Okay, be right back. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so Cesar, are you you're in the random app scripting server, so you have access to all of those resources. Have you downloaded the scripting guide and the terrain list and the constant list and everything like that? Okay. Let's go to single player editors. Looking sharp, says Buggy. I went to a wedding today, and I haven't had time to change out of my wedding clothing. All right. So, Return of the Clans should be down here somewhere. Yes. Enemy Archipelago. So let's see what it looks like on tiny size with 2 players. It's the most basic. Okay, good. Uh-oh. Seems to be frozen. It crashes. Oh boy. Alright. I guess let's try it again. It was originally used for Nomad Wars duos, so we'll try it 4-player map size. And a medium, yeah, 4-player map size with 4 players. But the most tricky part about this is going to be getting the player positioning right. And I think somebody already did that, at least for a certain size. So I think maybe if we can expand on it, and then just change the terrain type that's isolating the players, we should be able to nail what you're looking for. Okay. And actually, I do want to look at the script as well. So we're gonna. Oh, we need to send Sizu. Hold on one sec. Where is it? We need to send Sizu isolated lakes before I forget, because I am forgetful. Sizu. All right, and we're going to send him isolated lakes here. What we worked on. Just kind of a starting point so you can have a baseline. Is there a way to make all the islands like a hexagon or octagon? Yes. We could make it say I love you if you wanted. Here's the baseline, add to it, and show me your results. Okay. So we sent that over. Sorry. I had to make sure that we did that. Now let's come up here and we should. Actually, let's go over to maybe the mods folder is the most direct way to do it. All right, Return of the Clans. And we are going to open the directory. So resources, common, random map scripts, and we're gonna, where is it? Enemy Archipelago right here. So we're gonna copy that, close this, and go back into our random map scripts folder. We'll go over here to our workshop, educational purposes, and we're gonna paste Enemy Archipelago, and then we're gonna paste, we're actually gonna change the name. So like, what do you wanna call this, Cesar? I'm gonna call it Cesar's Archipelago for now. So this is going to be the original file, and this is going to be the one that we modify. Okay. And we don't have to do it in text file. I think Cesar's got a little bit more background maybe, or he's already seen us do the text file. So let's bring this up in Notepad++. So we're going to look at a lot of this, and we're going to gut a lot of it. Okay, looks like Crisini made the map originally. That is not very reassuring. Okay. Well, wait a second, though. If Crisini made this, then it's not very reassuring in the sense that it's very difficult. Crisini is a good scripter, but it's very difficult for me to reverse engineer it. He would like to name it Flotagono. Okay. All right, one sec. It's very hard for me to interpret and read Crisini's work and reverse engineer stuff. He's got similar things built into his stuff that I have and into mine that make it hard for people to mess with it and do something different. Okay, so Flotagano. Flautagano. I think I spelled that correctly. And we can bring it back up. It's got a European theme to it, apparently. And it's got all of these many conditionals. It's got color misspelled. Oof. Yeah, this is it's gonna be tough. I mean, here's a lot of it right here. Ugh. And you want hexagons or octagons. I think that would be really cool. But to do that, we're going to need to invoke Tech Chariot's super stuff. Oh. Maybe, yeah. If you found an AOE2 map.net script for it, this one might be easier to digest. This one's by Hank. Hank the Super Nerd. No. I think we're just gonna have to do this the hard way. And that's okay. Well, now that we're here, I do want to see what it looks like, actually. I am curious. Let's come into here to editors. Okay. So 4-player map size and enemy archipelago. Why does it have 2 copies? Oh, probably because of me moving it over again. It doesn't really matter which one I modify. And we'll make it for 4 players, and we'll generate and see what happens. And the game crashes. Alright. Forget that. We're going to do it our way, from scratch. The hard part. Publications. We'll copy Iron Nomad. Okay. And we'll come over here to help, and we'll place that in help. Dadgum is right. Alright, so it's fine. I was prepared to do this the hard way. I was thinking maybe, oh, we'll just change some terrains around on somebody else's work. And it should achieve the effect that you want. But it's not going to give you the hexagons, which I can do. I don't think anybody else can do the hexagons for you. Or the octagons. We'll get rid of this. I just got to rename all the files here. Flotagono. We don't need the PNG. Rename this as Flotagono. Don't need this picture. We're going to let you do your own objects. So we're not going to do that. Let me just check to see what this overview is. Yeah, it's not that. So we'll delete that. Alright, and then we'll rename this Flotagono. Okay. Except this is actually a topographical map of Ireland. I wrote a computer program that would scan Ireland and tell me everywhere that it saw this blue color. And then I set a specific type of terrain down there. So we don't want to do that in this case. The image that we want to scan will actually be a hexagon. So let me delete that. And let's download a good hexagon image, shall we? Alright, let's find a hexagon. You want a hexagon, right, Cesar, or would you rather have an octagon? I think a hexagon could be a good choice. Now, we need this hexagon to be a different color, and we need it to be distinct. This is pretty good. I don't know, you like one of these hexagons more than the other? It doesn't really matter. As long as it's not confusing. Alright. Yeah, we don't want too big of a file size here. So I think this 1500, this 1700 by 1500 would be fine. So we're going to save this image as a hexagon. It's black on white. It looks like it anyway. And okay, here we go. Aha! I agree. Hexagon is a better choice. It's going to be so cool. Okay. So now we can close this. And let's just check to make sure that our hexagon image looks good. Here it is. Okay. So now let's go into the well, let's go into the script file first. And this is done for Irish Nomad, so we don't need a lot of this stuff. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this for now. We could always add it back in later if we need it. Get rid of the rule changes, don't need those. We'll define this, that's fine. Leave the definition for grass, that's fine. Alright, we don't need anything with elevation right now. So we'll delete most of it, and then we'll just comment out one so we have a template to follow. And same thing with terrain. Okay, objects, we're actually going to delete all of these objects here. You're doing your own objects. Although we'll do a few objects just to make sure it's working properly. But objects are pretty straightforward. You need help with the lands part. Oh man, look at all these auto-generated objects. It's disgusting. Okay. Oh, this is actually really good too. We got manually placed player lands, which we are definitely going to hold on to. All right. So the base terrain is DLC Wet Rock Beach. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we're going to put... So here's what we're going to do. My understanding of this situation, what you want to do for your map, we take those. So my understanding of what you want to do is you want... Actually, let me bring up my whiteboard here. To make sure that we sketch it properly. Yeah, that's nice. Microsoft respects my privacy. That's good to know. All right. So, yeah, let's close that. You want... really, these are the only colors available to me? Whatever. All right. You want a hexagon, and then you want one player's town here, and another player's town like here on the hexagon, right? And let's say that this is the mini-map. And then you want this water here to be undockable. Is that right so far, Cesar? So, such that, I guess, if you had a bigger map for more players, that's right. All right. Then you might have... So if you had 4 players, maybe you would have 2 hexagons, and you would have 2 towns on each hexagon, one belonging to each player. Like that, right? So this is 4-player. And this is 2-player. Okay, so it still looks good, right? Now, you probably want this hexagon to take up as much of the map as possible. No interaction between islands, right? So, okay, for 4 players. So question, what if this player right here, what if this player here defeats this player here, but then his teammate is defeated by the other player, so you have one player on either island that is still alive from each team. Then what? It's not really any of my business. I'm just here to help you technically make this possible. But it's something that I did think about, and I'm kind of curious. Like, what happens if this guy beats this guy, and then his teammate dies on the other side, and so you got one guy from each team on each of the remaining islands that can't interact? Cesar says, FFA, no team. All right, but even still, if these guys were not on a team, and these guys were not on a team, and this guy killed this guy, and this other guy killed this other guy, then you would have, in this 4-player situation, what was originally a 4-player game is now a 2-player game with 1 player on each island that cannot interact with another island and therefore cannot go and kill the other player. And presumably will not have access to all the relics. So in my mind, at that point, it would become a wonder race. Was that your intention? I don't know why I'm putting these headphones on, actually. I don't need them, and they hurt my head, actually. Yep. So what is your plan for that? Is that anything that I can help you with? It's not any of my business, but I'm just curious. You only need 1 winner per island. Ah, I see. So there are multiple winners of the game. By the time that it reaches a stalemate, the winners are declared. Ah, I see. From 8, we take the 4 winners, then the 2, and then presumably the 1, right? So you need 3 different versions of the map, and that's why you weren't interested in a 6-player. Okay. That's why you weren't interested in a 6-player map size. Okay. I understand now. So, let's go back and yeah, we don't need that. We got our hexagon here. So we were yes, that's right. We were gutting the random map script. We're going to leave these for now. These are the player lands, and actually maybe if we got smart about it, we could just leave them exactly where they are. We got a bunch of automated lands now that appear below it. Let us grab everything above and cut it. Control A, delete, and then Paste it back in so that our auto lands are from the old configuration are no longer there. And we're going to call this where are we? So, Cesar, what's your background with random map scripting? Did you like know all the things that I was showing Sizu earlier? Have you created a few scripts yourself, or are you a complete beginner? Can you tell me where you're at in terms of experience? You know nothing on RMS. All right. In that case, I'm going to take half credit. Maybe it's greedy. So today is the 28th of May. Nightbot is the most advanced code that I do. Oh, you mean in terms of like checking people's rank and Discord and that sort of thing? Exclamation point. All right, I understand. Full credit even. Oh, okay. All right. If you insist. All right, I wasn't really sure. All right, so Flotagono, a random map script by Tech Chariot. It's fine. Setting up, oh, okay, setting up commands. Got it. So we got all that stuff commented out, and I think we're pretty much good to go. So we don't need that anymore. So now we'll bring up the .m file, which is GNU Octave. Okay, yeah, I understand a little bit better about what this is for. You're doing this for your own, like your own clan or your own group is doing their own tournament, and I'm helping you guys out with it. And I'm happy to do that. Flotagano, land generation by Tech Chariot, and today is 5. Okay. Okay. These are all commented out. We don't need them just yet. However, we have, yeah, we don't need. So we'll set the angle at 0. And F is the magnification. Which we're going to set equal to 1. All right. So the way that Irish Nomad worked was we had 3 different orientations and like 5 different orientations and 3 different magnifications. So there were 15 possible configurations of Irish Nomad. It was pretty cool. Okay. So this is the directory for the file. We're not going to have topography Ireland though. We've got hexagon, Flotagano, and then hexagon.jpg. So we'll copy that and paste this in here. hexagon. JPEG. Okay. And you know what? Let's just run this and see what it does. It should be pretty quick. So it's going to take the color in the corner and it's going to compare the indices to it. So there's probably going to be some formatting issue and it's going to crash the first time. Random map script random statement version 2 and transcribe v5 RMS processor. I don't think we're on v2 anymore. I think we're on like v3 at least. Oh gosh. Okay, it looks like we're on a v4. I don't even remember. So we'll save it. And then we'll run and we'll cross our fingers that it works. Nope. Doesn't want to work. Oh, you know what? So line 53. All right, so the image file, I bet, yep. So 53. So we just need k equals 1, actually, because it's just black and white, so we don't have 3 different pixel colors. Uh, 64. All right, we just need the first one. So we only have one index to worry about, so we can get rid of these, because it's just black and white. There's no blue. We don't need. Okay. It's running. It hasn't thrown an error yet, which is a good sign. Okay, the code compiles. What did it actually write? It did grass. Alright, we're still naming it. Okay, we could name it like struct or something for structure, so it's not confusing. Structure, just name it structure. That's fine. Alright. So, we should have a bunch of lands now that are grass, and they're just randomly included down here. Yep. So we got, how many do we have? I want to find an exact match. So we have 7,689. It seems like a lot. Match whole word. 7,672, not including where it's defined. All right. So the Wet Rock Beach is the base terrain, so we'll keep that for now. And let's see how it does. So we gotta launch the game. I'll be right back. One sec. We get the game going, and then we'll see what it actually generated. It should generate that hexagon. All right. Yes, I know you're sorry. You're sorry that you crashed. But I'm just going to move on. All right. So I'm excited. Let's see it. Let's see if we get the hexagon. Tiny map size for now. And float to go, no? No. What? That can't be. So let's take a look. Is grass not defined? No, it's defined. Base terrain. Let's define base terrain of water for now. Grass is defined. Let's look at this a little bit more closely. So there's a 100% chance of defining C1. And we've got all of these little lands. And these different locations. And they're valid. They're within the grid. So they should be showing up. But they're not. This should be put inside player setup. I don't think it's going to matter. But that's where it should be. G. I don't think it's the wrong Flotogano. I just see nothing. What's going on? We already have this file open. Terrain type DLC, what, Rock Beach? I know it's got to be super obvious somehow. By all accounts, it should be working. Let's find one that's reasonably close to the center. Uh, 43, 48 maybe. The terrain type is going to be snow. See if we can get that to stand out. Wait a second. Wait a second. Hold up. Hold the phone. I think I know what the problem is. Our base terrain is water. And our entire map is essentially grass. So that means that we're covering the entire map with lands. So what if we did a magnification factor of 0.5 to try to squeeze it down so that we have that water surrounding and we get the hexagon shape that we want? That could be what we need. Okay. Is the image just too big? Let's try 0.1. Maybe this image is just absolutely huge. Because this should be a pretty small, fast calculation. Yep. Alright, so it's able to put this stuff down. The problem is in the program somehow. So let's look at IMG here. It's undefined. What? That's not right. What's IMG original? 255, and then we have 2s. So IMG original, we should clearly be able to yes, we should clearly be able to distinguish between the gray and the black. The black is the 255, you can see it just passed, and the white is the 2. So this program is not working. And more fundamentally, the oh no, wait, the white is 255 and the black is 2. All right, that makes sense. And it's 410 by 474. So we want to resize this to 99 by 99 because the random app scripting engine deals in intervals of 1. So it's dealing in 1%. So that's why we need it to basically be 1 to 99 or 0 to 100, somewhere in that range. So IMG is not spawning properly, if you will. This is throwing an error, probably. Let's try running it and see what happens. No. Okay. So the resize works correctly. So wait a second. It's 10 by 10. Oh, right, because I specified 0.1. All right, so let's specify 1. And let's run it again. And let's see what IMG is. And I don't... Oh, we're clearing IMG at the end of this for whatever reason. So let's look a little bit more carefully here. We got the reference point 2, reference point 3. So we really only need reference point 1. That's the first thing. So reference master, cut that and place that here. Okay, we'll keep the tolerance. So this is like the upper left-hand corner is the reference point, and anything that's too different, it'll store and remember. That's its instruction. Okay. So now we'll run it again. And then we should be able to look at M, which is this matrix of all the different points. And we should see that hexagon shape. Okay. So what is this here? A big long list. All right, well, we got more data over here. Is this going to be the entire thing? Probably. But let's try generating it anyway. Yeah, we didn't change very much. All right. Let's go back. Okay, so we know that this is working properly. We know that we're only going to want one magnification possible for now. What is n? Should we look at n? N is undefined. Really? Is that because we're clearing it? Yes, that is exactly why. Okay, so we don't need this nz. Nx ny is equal to size of n. This should all, like we limited the number of dimensions, but there's no reason why this shouldn't work. I'm getting the series of points right here. So, I mean, I guess we could. Let's. Copy this. Okay, F is still going to be the magnification. We'll bring that up here. Ah, right, okay. No need for K. Okay, so we got N. I wonder if it's really just that simple. Let's comment this out. It can't just be that simple. All right, well, let's leave it uncommented for now. Okay. We can uncomment this, though. Okay. Try that. Right. Convert it over. Where does it want L now? Should just say that L is equal to 1. Take that. Okay. So let's look at M. Bunch of points. We could just kind of do this here. Actually, I might have code for that commented out at the bottom already. No, I don't. Figure 1. And we'll do like, I don't know, mesh. And we'll do a mesh of N. And we'll see how it looks. Make sure that we got that hexagon shape stored somewhere. No, it can't handle it. What the heck? Am I using the right command? Help mesh. XYZ. Yeah, it looks like it's the right command. All right, well, let's see if this generated anything. No. No, it did not. Ugh. Come on, you're embarrassing me. Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that n is the proper shape and size. Now, if we look at the variable, 255 is representative of the white space, and 2 is representative of the black. So we can sort of see an angle here that we could imagine would be part of a hexagon. All right, let's move this up here. One to nx, one to ny. Grid on. Okay, there we go. Okay, Cesar, here we go. This is what the data looks like. So we're importing the data properly. As you can see, the white sections are the elevated part, and the part that's actually the hexagon is the part that's close to 0, relatively close to 0. So the data is here. We just need to adjust how it extracts and stores this data. This hexagon will be fine. It's just adapting the stupid thing. All right. So, what is ref master? See, this is what you do, and when something isn't working, you start questioning everything. Should be like 2, or it should be 255. All right, it's 255. So we're basically going through each of these points and comparing them to 255. If they are within, maybe the tolerance is just too tight. If they are within 1% tolerance, then keep the data, store it. Otherwise, do nothing. So let's, I mean, maybe it's that simple. Maybe it really is just that simple. It's just a matter of having too tight of a tolerance. I don't know where I came up with that tolerance before. The King of Ireland topographical map. Maybe the fact that there are 3 different colors that are sort of being combined here made it so that it had to be a slightly different number. But let's give it the chance to try again with a looser tolerance. So if it's outside of 1%, it will not store that data. All right. Come on. No. All right, it still is failing. So, let us, we don't need a structure here. Let's just do M, and we're going to do M of K, comma, colon, is equal to that. And this should be getting, and actually I want to see what these coordinates are as it's producing them. It's probably a waste of time, actually. So if it's not, I want to see what the coordinates are, actually. So if it doesn't keep the data, I want to know. Wait a second. Maybe Maybe we need to flip that around. So if it's outside, we can tell that it's a different thing. We try it that way. Okay. Come on, big money, no whammy. No. Still did not work. Okay. So these are all the points, M. Like, I can tell you for a fact that 199 is not acceptable. Because, well, actually, it's the only thing that is acceptable. But, like, is 50-50 in here? All right, well, let's see how many it deems are not acceptable. So if the tolerance is outside, it's larger. Let's go back to smaller, because that's how it was. All right, so tell me if this is not satisfied, basically. Okay, so it's giving a bunch of cases where n is equal to 255, and so that's the outside stuff. What's this whole 99 minus I plus 1? I think that's just a way of flipping it around. But it's a hexagon, so that shouldn't matter. Okay, now let's see if it ever finds a situation where this tolerance is satisfied. And these should all be small numbers. These should all be like 2. Yeah. Well, wait a second. Why is 252 here? Why is 251 here? Really? All right, you know what? Let's change the rules. So if n of I comma j is less than 250, then it is considered part of the hexagon, and so store that data. Otherwise, if it's greater, do nothing. And let's see how that works. This is very simple. It's not taking a percent difference. It's just looking at the exact number because we know what the exact number is. We've looked at the data. But it's always stupid crap like this that fights you, wastes your time. You're trying to remember how you set it up. Maybe a more experienced programmer would have been through with it in like 5 minutes. Okay. Nope. All right. I don't know. I don't know. It seems we're able to extract the data, but for whatever reason, I can't. That's probably something stupid. For whatever reason, I can't seem to get that data onto the random map script like I could with Irish Arabia. So it's placing down grass. And the base terrain is something other than grass. Yeah, it's water. So the problem is that all these lands, and just delete half of them or something, so you can see they're just filling up the entire map. So if I get rid of that and then I generate again, we should have a lot of, oh, we don't. We should have a lot of water patches. What happens if I change my ARM as processor? I don't. It seems like there are a lot here. And I've deleted enough of them where there should be bald spots at this point. Unless these are like overlapping. Land position 1923. It says there's only one and only. If we reverted to a previous version of the function that just writes all these create land commands, is there something, did I do something to mess that up? There's still grass, exactly. But this is my own little homebrewed program that's supposed to convert images into, oh, look at that, it's not even defined anymore. It's supposed to convert images into data to use on a script, and the fact that it's not working is a big problem, and I need to understand why. Maybe it is just some stupid mistake and I can't see it because I'm presenting, and when you're presenting, if something goes wrong, it's a lot harder to diagnose what the problem is. But I don't know. If I ended the stream right now, I'd probably find it in 30 seconds. No, it's the same thing. All right, well, I guess I will have to tuck my tail between my legs and end the stream on an embarrassing note, having some bug that I can't find or isolate, or there's some, not some bug, but something that I just don't remember where it is and can't find it. And I will have to get back to you. We have the hexagon, we have the data for the hexagon. It's even extracting numbers, but for whatever reason, it's filling the entire map with those numbers, and it should not be, because we see that from the data. we know which ones are 255 and which ones are not. So I don't know. I'll end the stream here, and I will work on this, and I will get back to you. Like I said, it's probably something really stupid that I just can't see, because this programming is harder than random map scripting programming, for sure. Oh, I'm worried about it. I appreciate that, though, Cesar. So let me get back to you. Once we have this working, once we got this so that it can extract that hexagon and put it on the map, we could do it as many times as we want, wherever we want. We can make many of them for many different teams. So I will work on that, and I will get back to you. It may be as early as tomorrow. I don't know. But it's doable. I've done worse. I've done more complicated things before. So I'm going to end the stream, and I'm going to spend my time figuring this out without the pressure of presenting. But I think I've got a really good idea of what you're looking for now, and I will get back to you. The big thing, I don't mind, in fact, I would enjoy the opportunity to work on this. The big thing, Cesar, is at first I thought that you wanted to submit this for the random map scripting contest. So if you were going to do that, I was going to make you be here the whole time so that you could say that it was just as much your work because it was you'd put just as much time into it as it was my work. But because you're doing this for a different event, it doesn't matter whether or not it's my work because you're not submitting it as your own. You just need a map for a competition of sorts, your own. So so I'm happy to do that. So let me end the stream here, and I will figure out whatever stupid little thing it is that's causing this to fight back and not work. And I may stream later today. I don't know how much longer you're going to be up. It's actually the same time for you as it is for me. So if I get this working, I'll send you a DM, and if you want, I can stream continued work on it. And you can see how it goes. So thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And once I get this working, I'll send you a message, and you can let me know what you want to do. But yeah, it should absolutely. I don't understand. I gotta pick through it. This is embarrassing, but embarrassment is part of life. So thanks for being here, and I will get back to you. I can totally make this work. I promise. So we'll see you.